Let's get one thing straight. If you don't value yourself first, nobody else will. That's not just a nice sounding phrase. It's the foundation of every healthy relationship you will ever have. Too many people enter relationships thinking love is about proving their worth to someone else. They pour everything into another person, believing that if they just love hard enough, if they give enough, they will finally be enough. But here's the truth. You were already enough before they ever showed up. Think about it. When you were born, nobody handed you a checklist and said, you need to be more, do more, give more to be worthy of love. No, you were born worthy. But somewhere along the way, through experiences, society, heartbreaks, you started believing that love had to be earned through sacrifice. That's where the problem began. People with strong self-worth don't chase love, they attract it. They don't settle for half-hearted affection, emotional neglect, or relationships that drain them. They don't make excuses for why someone can't meet them halfway. Because when you know your worth, you refuse to let anyone treat you as if you don't matter. And that's not arrogance, that's self-respect. But here's where most people struggle. They think self-worth is just about confidence. They think it's about looking in the mirror and saying, I love myself, and that's it. No. Self-worth is a lifestyle. It's about the decisions you make, the standards you set, and the way you allow people to treat you. It's about recognizing when someone is taking more than they give and having the courage to step back instead of losing yourself trying to please them. Too often people fall into the trap of believing that love requires them to abandon themselves. They ignore red flags, dismiss their own needs, and tolerate things that make them uncomfortable, all in the name of love. But let me ask you something. If love is causing you to neglect yourself, is it really love? If you are constantly exhausted, anxious, or questioning your own worth in a relationship, something is wrong. That's not love. That's emotional self-destruction disguised as devotion. Real love should never require you to prove yourself. If you feel like you have to constantly earn someone's affection, attention, or respect, you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional transaction. And transactions are temporary. The moment you stop giving, the moment you stop bending over backward, the other person pulls away. That's not how love is supposed to work. Love isn't something you have to beg for. Love isn't something that should leave you feeling depleted or broken. Love should feel like a home, not a battlefield. And I get it. I know what you might be thinking, but what if I love them? What if I don't want to give up on them? Listen, love is powerful, but your well-being is more important than proving your loyalty to someone who doesn't value you the same way. Love should be mutual, not one-sided. It should bring you peace, not pain. And if loving someone else is forcing you to betray yourself, it's time to reevaluate what you're holding on to. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept. If you constantly allow others to disrespect your boundaries, take you for granted, or make you feel less than, you're sending a message that says, I don't deserve better. And that message, it attracts more of the same treatment. The cycle continues because people will only rise to the standards you set for yourself. So what does self-worth look like in action? It looks like setting boundaries and sticking to them. It looks like recognizing when someone's behavior isn't aligned with the love and respect you deserve and walking away when necessary. It looks like being whole on your own so that when love does come into your life, it's a bonus, not your entire identity. Self-worth means you don't settle just because you're afraid of being alone. It means you don't chase after someone who keeps pulling away. It means you don't make excuses for someone's mistreatment just because you have feelings for them. Feelings are real, but they should never override the truth. You deserve love that values you, not love that asks you to diminish yourself. When you prioritize your self-worth, everything changes. You start to recognize who is genuinely there for you versus who is only there for what you can offer. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who don't care to understand you. You stop giving endless chances to someone who continuously shows you they don't deserve another one. You start seeing love for what it should be, not a test of endurance, but a place of safety. But let's be real, choosing yourself isn't always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from someone you love. Sometimes it means standing alone while you rebuild. Sometimes it means facing the fear of the unknown instead of staying in a situation that's slowly destroying you. But let me tell you this, nothing is lonelier than being in a relationship where you feel unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. So if you're in a place where you're constantly questioning your value in a relationship, if you feel like you're losing yourself trying to make someone else happy, if you are hurting more than you are healing, take a step back. Ask yourself, what am I really holding on to? And is it worth the price of losing myself? You don't have to stay in a place that's breaking you just because you're afraid of leaving. You don't have to keep giving to someone who only takes. You don't have to sacrifice your happiness just to keep a relationship alive. Love should never be a war where you are the only one fighting. The moment you start truly believing in your worth, you stop tolerating anything that makes you feel less than. And that's not just a change, it's a transformation. Love is meant to build you up, not tear you down. It's supposed to be a source of strength, not exhaustion. Yet so many people find themselves in relationships where they feel drained, empty, and constantly on edge. They mistake emotional labor for love, thinking that if they just give a little more, try a little harder, sacrifice a little further, the relationship will finally feel right. But that's not love. That's a slow erosion of self. True love does not demand that you exhaust yourself. It does not require you to constantly give while receiving little in return. It does not make you question your worth or leave you feeling like you are never enough. Love in its purest form is reciprocal. It's not about one person carrying all the weight while the other simply benefits. It's about mutual effort, respect, and care. The problem arises when people confuse struggle with love. They believe that enduring pain, waiting for change, or fighting to be seen is proof of their devotion. Love should not be a battlefield where you are the only one fighting. If the connection is constantly leaving you feeling depleted, that is a sign, not a test of your endurance. Think about the relationships in your life. Do they add to you or do they take from you? Do they inspire you to grow or do they make you feel small? A healthy relationship should feel like an anchor in a storm, not the storm itself. It should give you a sense of security, not a sense of anxiety. When you are with the right person, you don't have to wonder where you stand or beg for their time, attention, or love. Love that depletes you often disguises itself as passion. It keeps you running in circles, making you believe that if you just hold on a little longer, things will get better. But real love does not keep you waiting for a breakthrough. It does not make you prove your worth over and over again. It does not leave you feeling like you are the only one trying. If a relationship is taking more from you than it is giving, it is not love. It is an emotional burden. And here's the reality. When you allow yourself to stay in relationships that drain you, you lose more than just your energy. You lose pieces of yourself. You lose your confidence, your joy, your sense of purpose. You start compromising parts of who you are just to maintain something that should never cost you your peace in the first place. So many people stay in toxic relationships because they are afraid of losing what they have invested. They think, I've already given so much, I can't walk away now. But the truth is, the longer you stay in a relationship that takes more than it gives, the more you lose yourself in the process. Love is not supposed to feel like a constant sacrifice. It's not supposed to leave you feeling drained at the end of every day. If love is real, it should empower you. It should make you feel seen, valued, and appreciated. It should inspire you to grow into the best version of yourself, not keep you stuck in a cycle of emotional exhaustion. It should feel like a safe space, not a place where you are constantly walking on eggshells. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean that relationships are always easy. Every relationship will face challenges and there will be moments of difficulty. But there is a difference between working through issues together and one person carrying the entire weight of the relationship. Struggles should be shared, not placed entirely on one person's shoulders. When love is real, both people show up. Both people put in the effort. Both people choose each other, not just when it's convenient, but when it truly matters. It's important to recognize when a relationship is taking more from you than it is giving. If you find yourself constantly feeling exhausted, unheard, or unappreciated, that is not love. It is emotional labor disguised as love. And emotional labor without reciprocation will leave you feeling depleted every single time. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give endlessly without receiving in return. If you continue to invest in relationships that only take, eventually you will have nothing left to give. Love is meant to be a balance, a give and take, not a take and take. It should replenish your soul, not drain it dry. But the hardest part for many people is accepting that love alone is not enough to sustain a relationship. You can love someone deeply, but if they are not meeting you halfway, if they are not willing to put in the same effort, then that love is not fulfilling its purpose. Love should be an energy source, not an energy drain. It should motivate you, not leave you feeling like you are constantly fighting for scraps of attention and affection. So often, people stay in relationships that deplete them because they fear being alone. They think that settling for something unfulfilling is better than having nothing at all. But what they don't realize is that being alone with your peace is far better than being with someone who drains you of it. Love that elevates you will never feel like a constant struggle for survival. It will not make you feel like you are in a constant state of proving yourself. It will not leave you questioning your worth or wondering if you are asking for too much. Love that is real, that is pure, that is healthy will always feel like a source of strength. It will lift you, encourage you, and remind you of your value. But love that depletes you will always feel like a battle you are fighting alone. And the moment you realize this, the moment you recognize the difference between love that elevates and love that exhausts, everything changes. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is believing they have to become someone else to keep love alive. They start compromising parts of themselves, little by little, until they look in the mirror one day and don't even recognize who they are anymore. And for what? For a relationship that only thrives when they shrink themselves? That's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as devotion. Your identity, your values, your passions, your dreams, your voice is non-negotiable. It is not something that should be molded to fit someone else's expectations. Yet, too often people find themselves bending, adjusting, and minimizing parts of who they are just to keep someone else happy. They stop doing the things they love. They silence their opinions. They make themselves smaller, thinking that if they just become easier to love, the relationship will last. But let's be real. If love requires you to abandon yourself, is it really love? If you have to walk on eggshells, suppress your emotions, or constantly adjust your personality to avoid conflict, that's not love, that's emotional survival. A relationship should be a space where both people are free to be their true selves, not a place where one person has to disappear to make it work. The saddest part is that many people don't even realize it's happening. It starts small. Maybe you stop speaking up when something bothers you because you don't want to start an argument. Maybe you give up a hobby you love because your partner doesn't understand it. Maybe you stop dressing the way you like because they make a passing comment about it. It's subtle at first, but over time these small sacrifices add up, and suddenly you're living a version of yourself that is built around someone else's preferences. And here's the truth, any relationship that asks you to be less of yourself is not a relationship worth holding on to, because when you compromise your identity to fit into someone else's world, you don't just lose yourself, you also lose the things that make you unique, the things that make you powerful, the things that make you you. And that's a price too high to pay. Think about it. When you first met this person, you had dreams, opinions, ambitions, things that set your soul on fire. But somewhere along the way, did you start setting those things aside to keep the peace? Did you start suppressing parts of yourself because you felt like they weren't acceptable in the relationship? If so, that's a red flag, because love should embrace who you are, not erase who you are. When someone truly loves you, they love all of you. The loud parts, the quiet parts, the ambitious parts, the messy parts. They don't ask you to change to fit into their world. They don't make you feel like you have to choose between them and your dreams. They don't treat your passions like inconveniences or your emotions like burdens. Instead, they celebrate who you are. They encourage your growth. They respect your voice, and they make room for the things that matter to you. But when you're with someone who can't handle all of you, they will slowly start chipping away at your identity. It won't always be obvious. It won't always be intentional, but it will happen. And if you're not paying attention, you'll wake up one day wondering why you feel empty, disconnected, and lost. Losing yourself in a relationship doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments, in decisions, in choices where you put someone else's comfort above your own truth. And while compromise is necessary in relationships, self-sacrifice is not. There is a difference between meeting your partner halfway and abandoning your own needs just to make them happy. You were not born to be a supporting character in someone else's story. You were not put on this earth to be a watered-down version of yourself just to keep a relationship alive. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be fully, unapologetically embraced. So many people settle for relationships that stifle them because they think love means never disappointing the other person. But real love is not about never disagreeing. It's not about suppressing who you are to keep someone from leaving. Real love is about respecting each other's individuality, supporting each other's growth, and never making the other person feel like they have to choose between being themselves and being in the relationship. The right relationship will never feel like a constant battle between love and authenticity. It will never require you to perform just to be accepted. It will never make you feel like you have to edit yourself to fit into someone else's life. Instead, it will feel like a space where you are free to express yourself, free to pursue your goals, free to be exactly who you are without fear of judgment or rejection. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone will be able to handle all of you. Not everyone will be willing to love you for everything you are, and that's okay. Because the people who truly belong in your life will never ask you to shrink. They will never make you feel like you have to earn their love by being less than who you are. They will love you in your entirety, not just the parts that are convenient for them. The question you have to ask yourself is this: are you willing to keep sacrificing your identity for the sake of a relationship? Or are you ready to step into a space where you are fully seen, fully valued, and fully you? One of the hardest things you'll ever do in life is walk away from something you once thought was meant to last forever. It's painful, it's heartbreaking, it feels like you're leaving behind a part of yourself. But let me tell you something. You are not weak for walking away. You are not giving up. You are not a failure. Walking away from something that no longer serves you, no longer fulfills you, no longer respects you, that is one of the most powerful things you can do. Too many people stay in relationships that hurt them because they confuse endurance with love. They think that if they just stick it out a little longer, if they just hold on a little tighter, things will eventually change. They tell themselves, maybe if I love harder, if I give more, if I become exactly what they need, they will finally see my worth. But that's not love, that's self-betrayal. Love is not about proving your worth to someone who refuses to see it. Love is not about sacrificing your own happiness just to keep someone else comfortable. Love is not about enduring pain in the hope that one day it will all be worth it. If love is forcing you to neglect yourself, if it's making you feel small, if it's breaking you instead of building you, then it's not love. It's attachment, it's fear, it's the habit of holding on to something simply because you don't know how to let go. And I get it. Letting go is terrifying. It's easier to stay in the familiar, even when it's hurting you, than to step into the unknown. But let me ask you this. How much longer are you willing to put yourself through this? How much more of yourself are you willing to sacrifice? How many more times will you let yourself be disappointed before you finally choose yourself? Walking away is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of self-respect. It's a statement that says, I am no longer willing to settle for less than I deserve. And that is one of the strongest, most courageous decisions you will ever make. Because it's easy to stay. It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to convince yourself that things will get better. But walking away, that takes strength. That takes bravery. That takes knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that walking away means they've wasted their time. They think that if they leave now, all the love they gave, all the effort they put in, all the years they invested, it will all be for nothing. But that's not true. Nothing is wasted if it taught you something. Nothing is wasted if it helped you grow. Nothing is wasted if it made you realize what you will and will not tolerate moving forward. You see, every experience, no matter how painful, serves a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is to show you exactly what you don't want in a relationship. Sometimes it's to teach you what real love is by exposing you to what love is not. And sometimes it's simply to remind you that you deserve better. But here's the truth. You cannot receive better if your hands are still full of what's breaking you. You cannot open yourself up to the love you truly deserve if you are still holding on to something that is tearing you down. You cannot step into a new chapter of your life if you are still rereading the last one hoping for a different ending. And let's be honest. Walking away doesn't just mean physically leaving. It also means emotionally letting go. Because too many people leave relationships physically, but mentally they're still stuck in the past. They replay memories. They overanalyze what went wrong. They hold on to the what ifs and the maybes, keeping themselves trapped in a cycle of pain. But true freedom comes when you not only walk away, but when you also release the attachment, the hope, the fantasy of what could have been. Walking away means choosing your own peace over their potential. It means accepting that love alone is not enough to make a relationship work. It means realizing that staying in something unhealthy is not loyalty, it's self-neglect. The world will try to tell you that leaving is a sign of weakness, that quitting means you didn't try hard enough, that walking away means you failed, but the world is wrong. The truth is, staying in something that is hurting you is the real failure. Staying in something that diminishes you, that makes you doubt yourself, that drains you, walking away is not an act of giving up. It's an act of self-preservation. It's choosing yourself when someone else refuses to. It's recognizing that you are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to change. It's understanding that your love should not be a lifeline for someone who is unwilling to meet you halfway. But here's the thing. Letting go is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when you miss them, days when you wonder if you made the right decision, days when the loneliness creeps in, whispering that maybe you should go back. But don't mistake comfort for love. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. Just because you miss someone doesn't mean you belong with them. Just because walking away is painful doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. Healing takes time. Moving on takes effort. But every day you choose yourself, every day you remind yourself of why you walked away, you get stronger. And one day you'll wake up and realize that the pain that once felt unbearable is now just a lesson you learned. You'll realize that leaving wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Because walking away isn't just about leaving a person. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about choosing your happiness. It's about stepping into the life you deserve, even if it means walking alone for a while. It's about understanding that real love will never require you to hurt yourself just to keep it alive.